Okay, yes, I see guesses in the chat. Mel Conrad says 4. Matt Russell says 5. George Pickup says 5. Awesome. And we have a good massive attendees right now. I'd love to see all of the recurring names. We have some board members with us. Jerry Roseman, Karen Varley. I saw Mike Carberry earlier. We love our group. I personally love to see everybody who comes back every Thursday. We love that. Erin, I am all set. So when you want to get us started, feel free to do that.
Very good. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Iowa Farmers Union Lunch and Learn series. My name is Aaron Lehman, president of the Iowa Farmers Union, and this is our effort to do outreach to our members and to the general public about family farm issues, about sustainable agriculture issues, about positive rural development issues. And we are so grateful to be joined today by our friends at Dirtroad Organizing, and we'll learn all about it. Chloe Maxmin is the co-director of Dirtroad Organizing, and we'll begin that conversation in just a moment. But Chloe, it's really nice to have you here. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We got a couple of Farmers Union announcements that we want to cover, and the first one is related to the Iowa Farmers Union Lobby Day. We are bringing our farm voices, our rural voices, to the Iowa Capitol on next Tuesday, February 18th. If you haven't had a chance to sign up yet, please go to the link in the chat. February 18th, Iowa Farmers Union Lobby Day. We have our whole set of Farmers Union priorities to work on, and it's been a very active session in the legislature so far. So we know that the best way to advocate is to bring our voices, our stories, our narratives to lawmakers directly in Des Moines. So join us February 18th. We'll look forward to seeing you there. And we'll head up to the Capitol after meeting at the Iowa Genealogical Society in the morning. And as you go to the Capitol, one of the fun sights to see is the subject of our trivia question today. The trivia question asks, in the Iowa Law Library, how many floors are in the Iowa Law Library? It's one of the more iconic spaces, iconic rooms in the entire state of Iowa. And the answer is 5. We had a number of people answer correctly. There are 5 floors to the Iowa Law Library. It's also the same number of domes on the Iowa Capitol. And the Iowa Capitol is the only capital in the United States with 5 domes. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week on February 18th for the Iowa Farmers Union Lobby Day. I also want to say we have a special announcement today about our Iowa Farmers Union. We have been so privileged to be served by our executive director, David Andrews, over the past 14, 15 months. And we have really benefited so much from his guidance, his leadership, and his experience over that time. And we are so grateful to him. David, I'm going to pass it on to you to make a quick announcement.
Well, thanks, Aaron. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Iowa Farmers Union, its board of directors, the IFU membership, and especially the dedicated and talented staff for the opportunity to serve as executive director during the past year. You know, some of the highlights that I enjoyed while working here was the IFU Day at the fair, an in-person board meeting in July where we ended that meeting with a game at Principal Park, and the barn party and the annual convention. You know, it was a great year for me, and it was a great year for the organization. Now it's time for me to move on. I'm not sure exactly what that'll entail. Maybe a little traveling, maybe somewhere warm. And there's always mowing to do at the farm. One thing for sure, I do feel very comfortable handing this position off to a very capable young man with a lot of great experience, Matt Russell. You'll hear from him later. Iowa Farmers Union is the oldest farm organization. It's led the fight in supporting small to medium-sized and beginning farmers and fruit and vegetable growers around the state. And I know that'll continue. That said, at this particular time, there are some significant challenges facing the country and Iowa agriculture. It's time for the IFU membership to stand together and speak out loudly and strongly for the small to mid-sized family farmer in both rural and urban consumers. With the current administration, this is going to be a tough fight, but a fight IFU has to win. Iowa is fortunate to have the organization of Iowa Farmers Union. Please continue to support IFU and its leadership. It's one of the best investments you'll make. Thank you, and all the best to my friends at Iowa Farmers Union.
Well, Dave, we're really so grateful for the guidance and leadership you've shown us, and we're really looking forward to continuing that relationship on as you move on to this next phase in your life and your work. But we are so grateful for you, and thank you so much from the behalf of our whole organization. So
thank you.
And you mentioned that Matt Russell has joined us on the call too. Matt has at the invitation of the Iowa Farmers Union Board of Directors, has accepted to serve in an interim executive director role for these coming months. And we are so happy that he has chosen to join us in that role. So Matt, welcome to the Iowa Farmers Union in your new role here. And we are so excited for that. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And Dave and I have had a chance to work a little bit this week together. I am really excited. I've been part of Iowa Farmers Union since I moved back to Iowa in 1999. I may not have been a paid member every one of those years. Don't hold me to that, but certainly been a member for lots of those years, and always trying to make sure that my membership is up to date. And I'll actually be bringing a check-in tomorrow when we're all together in the office up there in Ames. Reminder to everybody that still has a membership dues to pay. We're at a time of great transition. I'm in a time of transition. So leaving the Biden-Harris administration, I wanted to spend some time writing. I have some projects at the farm I wanted to do. I'm in the process of looking for a job, but not super aggressively because I have these other things I want to do. And the opportunity to be work part-time as interim director is such an incredible opportunity for me. This organization is in an incredibly strong place. I think this is my first memory of having a full-time executive director. There might have been some 10, 15, 20 years ago, but Dave has done such a great job of leaning in and developing the organization with the senior executive director there. So I'm really excited to be able to take the work that Dave's done, the staff's done, the membership, and look at opportunities, challenges, and really help the organization move into what's next, a few months down the road versus going out and trying to hire a new executive director right now. So I think it's a great opportunity for me. It's a great opportunity for the organization. There's a lot of transition going on in the country, and I think, and in agriculture, and I think Iowa Farmers Union is incredibly well positioned to lean in and do that work. And I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you, David, so much. We're really looking forward to these conversations continuing and moving into our next phase. So, well, with that, folks, I want us to shift into our Lunch and Learn conversation today. And we are so grateful to be joined by Chloe Maxmin, co-director of Dirtroad Organizing. And we're going to talk about the organization of Dirtroad Organizing and its training programs that provide long-term mentorship to support organizers, staff, candidates, legislators who are working toward an equitable and just democracy in rural America. And we are having this conversation at a great time because we have another cohort that is beginning soon with Dirtroad Organizing. It's great to have you, Chloe. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Aaron, and everyone at our Iowa's Farmers Union and on the call. I'm here because Tommy Hexter reached out and asked if I would join. He was part of our training program last year. And so, yeah, very, very excited to be talking with all of you. My name is Chloe. I live in Maine and I grew up here. I grew up in a very small town of 1,600 people on my family's venison farm. And I currently live quite nearby and run a small beef and commercial veggie farm. So feel very connected to the farming ethic. I just really love where I'm from. And, I think so much of how I think about my community has just been informed by it's a very agricultural community. And so it's always about, are you showing up when others are in need, when everyone needs help? Are you waving to everyone as they're driving down the road on their tractors? And it just felt like a really, really special way to grow up, and instilled in me a love for rural places. And now I spend my days advocating for rural places. When Trump got elected in 2016, my hometown House district and my hometown Senate district voted for Trump. And I think that was surprising to me, because I felt like there was kind of like an undercurrent of just, things that didn't feel welcoming and kind. And that felt at odds with the community that I knew and love and lived in. And so in 2018, I decided to run for a state house seat here in Maine. Our house seats are quite small, and we have publicly financed campaigns. So it's like a little bit of a unique scene to be here. But I ran with just the simple purpose of trying to get to know my community better. I lived there my whole life, but I felt like there was still so much that I wanted to understand. And through that process, I just felt like, it was so life-changing. I talked with people who lived 2 houses down from me that I'd never talked with before. And we didn't just talk about the weather. We talked about politics and controversial politics. And I learned how to find common ground with folks that, on face value might be very different from me. And one might say might not ever want to vote for someone like me. But this process of just really digging in and meeting folks where they're at, having face-to-face conversations was so powerful, and just taught me so many lessons about how we judge others, and how those judgments create barriers between us and kind of keep us siloed off from folks who think differently than we do. So we won in 2018, and then I served in the legislature for 2 years, and I ran again in 2020 for a state Senate seat, and also won in 2020. and knocked on over 20,000 doors between those 2 campaigns. So I felt like I got to know my community really, really well. And during that journey, we didn't use any party consultants. It was just me and my best friend Canyon, who was my campaign manager, just trying to figure out a different way to campaign and engage in rural places, because obviously the way that rural Americans have been treated by the parties we don't deserve it. We deserve better. So the whole point was to try and like really ground ourselves in the community. We'd be taking voice memos and texts, and there's just like so much content that we had from that journey. We turned it into a book called Dirtroad Revival, about why it's so important to be investing in rural places. That book led us to connect with so many people across the country who were also running for office, doing this work in rural communities. And it's even to this day, I'm always surprised that even though our communities are so different, they're unique and beautiful in their own way, of course. But this experience of what it means to dig into politics in a rural community is so similar, no matter where you are. And we just heard this huge need for connection and support and training around this work, because at least my experience is that I've been told more times than not, that I shouldn't be going out and talking to all the folks that spoke to Trump, that's not what I should be doing. But I think that's exactly what we should be doing. So we formed Dirtroad Organizing in 2022 as a way to start building up support systems for people who are running for office, or who are working on campaigns in rural America. We just finished our first year of programming. We trained 71 folks from 29 states, and we had 37 people on the ballot. And of those folks, 50% either won or outperformed past cycles. So we were excited about that. Just even in districts where the presidential ticket went one way, our candidates made so much headway. Just this lesson that investing in grassroots local organizing, investing in our communities is where we gain traction to move policies forward that really truly benefit rural communities. And so I'm here today because we have our application open for our spring training program. We also will be running training programs in the summer and the fall, and you can also apply for those right now, but there's no imminent deadline. If you're interested in working with us this spring, the deadline to apply is February 27th. And we'll make sure that that link is shared in the chat. But yeah, that's my spiel. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, yeah, we'll encourage people to put their questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. So how did it all start for you? What triggered you to not only run, but to find a way to make a new connection with your community through your activism and your campaign? What was leading up to that decision?
Oh, that's such a good question. You know, so much of it are the same themes that I hear today, that just kind of this general looking downness on rural communities. And you know, I went to school in Boston, and that, like, I don't know, that sense that like city folks are looking down on rural folks was so prevalent. And then especially after 2016, I felt like I don't know, the narrative about rural communities was just really not what I knew of my rural community. And there was a lot of dissonance for me, and I didn't really believe it. You know, I felt like my community was pretty desperate for investment and resources and attention, and to be heard. And it really wasn't about, you know, extreme politics. It was about, we need something different because the status quo is not serving us. But that story was never told. It was always like a pretty judgmental story. And that was definitely echoed as I went door to door, you know, that most folks in my community did, like, that was the biggest thing I heard. You know, I don't feel represented, I don't feel heard, and the deep consequences of that on our lives. I feel like we're in another moment like that right now, where there's a lot of blame being placed on rural communities, but there's not a lot of accountability for why rural communities are feeling so left behind and under-resourced in the first place.
Well, absolutely. Boy, we're getting some great questions in, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. The training that you do, is it primarily for candidates for office, or is it also for supporters and activists who play other roles in how specific is the training?
So we run one cohort for candidates, and those we find our curriculum works best if you're actively thinking about running for office. You don't have to be declared or any of that stuff. It's just something that you're seriously considering. We also run a separate one for folks who are interested in working on a campaign or doing a rural organizing project. Our focus is electoral. I see your question, Jada. We're nonpartisan. We focus on values, not party. I think both parties have let enough people down, so we really invest in the values that we see as important for rural places.
Okay, very good. Well, and I'll remind people that we're joined today by Chloe Maxmin of Dirtroad Organizing. And she is talking about the upcoming set of cohorts beginning very, very soon. So another question that was asked, you know, when you were out campaigning, did you notice that the strategies and tactics you were using were different from what you saw in other campaigns? What did you think about that as you were running with lots of other people running for office at the same time?
Yes. You know, I'd been lucky to work on campaigns before I ran for office myself. So I kind of, you know, I'd been through the trainings as well. So I kind of knew the nuts and bolts of what went into a campaign. And every training that I attended was great, but it was not built for a rural community. Knocking on doors in a rural place where, you know, well, A, you're driving from house to house, B, you're going down driveways that might be a mile long, and you might be out there in the middle of the woods alone talking to someone that you've never met before. And that's just a very different experience than knocking on doors in a city or a suburban area. They're all needed, they're just different. So when we were running our campaigns, it was we made a very intentional effort to try and do things differently. So, you know, all of our materials were handmade by our own team. We painted our own road signs, we created our own mailers. Everything was hand done because we want it to be like authentic and not cookie cutter. I think the biggest thing was that we decided to choose whose doors we knocked on instead of receiving that data from the state party. And that meant that every day I was talking to people who had never been contacted by a Democratic candidate or canvasser in their entire voting history. And that was I mean, it was honestly just quite sad because these were folks, they're really good folks. And you'd think we've never talked to them because they're, they're very conservative. But no, they're just like normal folks, that we have not talked to. So I think that was the biggest thing that we did, was just reach beyond the choir and try to make a case that you know, we got to organize. Our movement needs to be bigger.
Well, absolutely. So, another question asks, does the course that you designed, is it specific for Iowa or a certain area, or is it helpful for rural areas and all states?
So if you're in our cohort, you'll join folks from all across the country. We actually find that this, like the sense of community that people derive from the cohorts, meeting folks from other states, is actually really powerful because it kind of gives a perspective and like, oh wow, I like this dynamic is very real everywhere.
Mm.
Are potentially exploring doing one just for farmers this year. And so I'll definitely keep y'all updated on that. And that would be, so you would just be with farmers, most likely just from the Midwest. So I can keep y'all updated on that opportunity as well.
Well, very good. We'll be anxious to hear about that. What does the training cost? What's it take to participate?
So the training is free. We do, I mean, if you have the means and the desire to pitch in and help us make it happen, we accept it, but we don't expect any payment. If you are a declared candidate running for office, that's a slightly different story, but we still make it accessible to everybody.
Ah, well, great. That's wonderful. So we have just a couple time for just a couple more questions here as we get started. So how was we had a question that asked, in your community, as the elections cycles move on, and we've had some turbulent number of years, how have you seen your community change, and how did your particular districts change as you ran for them and moved on to this work after serving in office?
Mm. That's such a nice question. I think that there's parts of my community that feel yeah, kind of scary, like in ways that I didn't expect. There's, just yeah, kind of like outward hatred that did not exist when I was growing up here. And that's really sad to see and kind of hard. It's hard to digest. And at the same time, I think there's still so much of that rural character that I love, that's still here and like, fighting for breath. And I do everything that I can to lift that up, and that's not just like about being progressive or whatever. It's about just like being a kind human that values your neighbors and creating an accepting hometown. But yeah, I think it's tough times, and I think policymaking has gotten, just as divisive and polarized as what it feels like in the community as well, which is also such a shame because I really think we need like bipartisan. I think we need to legislate the way that we campaign, which is including everyone and really listening to all perspectives. But that's not really what happens. So I think it's
Sure.
yeah, it's a tough moment for sure.
Yeah, but you touched on one of the next question that someone had for is, what in when you do this work, what makes you most optimistic as you're working with people from around the country and people who share the desire to make a difference in their rural communities in a new and different way.
Oh, yeah, my bright spots are definitely all of the folks that come through the Dirt Road training programs. I just to have like these really special glimpses into the good work that's happening all across the country gives me so much hope. It's like the news is so overwhelming and the world feels
Mm.
so overwhelming, but it's what's happening at the local level in our communities, and it is I just it's a slow slog, but I just so deeply believe that, committing to finding common ground face to face in the place that you love and call home, um, yeah, that's the hope that I see. And it is happening everywhere. We just don't hear enough stories about it.
Well, isn't that the truth? We got to also had a comment that, one of our listeners has mentioned that, when they do some local organizing, surprised that more national politics are injecting themselves on the local level. And that's part of the challenge, right? Is to try to bring out those local values, even though there is this influence coming from our national politics.
Yeah, I definitely, and I feel like I feel like there's nothing I can do really about the national scene these days,
Right.
but there is a whole lot that I can do on the local level. And I think there's so many powerful arguments to be made about, like, I know I hear you talking about what's happening in DC, but I want to talk about what's happening here and how we can protect our community right here. And so many, I think so many of when we talk about running for office in rural communities, if it's at a state legislature level or below, these races can come down to just a handful of votes. And I think there's just such a better way to engage with democracy when you're when you're in your community.
Yeah, and it all starts with those conversations, doesn't it? Into that real space with those closest to us, and building that change from the bottom of the ballot up. This has really been a great conversation, and I know that the timing couldn't be better because you're getting ready for another cohort to start soon. Remind us how people should reach out to get engaged and learn more and possibly be a part of this great opportunity.
Yeah, thank you all so much again for having me on. Christina just put the link in the chat, and if you have any questions, if you fill out the contact form on the website, it goes to my email. And yeah, happy to connect anytime.
Very good. We know that we have some great people, and I would take advantage of this. If you have any, if you have some Iowa connections that people can make connections with here, we should make sure that our Iowans have a nice little small cohort of the group.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
It's in my mind to try and make that happen.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
hey, thank you so much for your time. And the timing couldn't be better. And we're going to encourage people to look into this great opportunity. But you taking the time out of your day and knowing that you got snow on the way and our busy folks are moving snow from yesterday, no better time than to try to connect about this as we figure out how we can make a real progressive change in rural Iowa and rural America. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, we are so happy that we at the Iowa Farmers Union offer this service. Our Lunch and Learn is designed to do outreach and education with our members and with members of the general population. We want to spread the word about family farming, sustainable agriculture, and thriving rural communities. If you haven't had a chance to join the Iowa Farmers Union yet, please do so today. Your work helps make this possible. Your work, your support makes the Iowa Farmers Union Lobby Day next week possible. We know that the way we can make the biggest difference is by working together. And so we encourage you, if you haven't had a chance yet, to become an Iowa Farmers Union member, to support the Iowa Farmers Union. And we will look forward to our conversations continuing again next week. So thank you, Chloe, so much. We really appreciate it. Christina, thank you so much for bringing this all together.
Thanks, everybody. Come to our lobby day, February 18th at 10 a.m. The link is in the chat.
Excellent. See you next week, guys.
Thanks, everyone.